Hey everyone, what's up? Welcome to another BRAP. It is Wednesday, and got a lot to talk about as always. I want to give a big shout out to everyone in the live chat. Thank you everyone for taking the time to hang out with us this evening. And do me a quick favor, just smash the like button. Please hit the like button. It actually helps the channel a lot. Really appreciate the support. I'm going to actually drop a link here in the live chat. If you could do me a favor and retweet the link on your favorite social media platform or on LinkedIn, well, not LinkedIn, or LinkedIn if you want, but on Twitter, I would greatly appreciate it. So thank you so much again, and as always, appreciate the support. Now, the BRAP panel will be joining us, or the rest of the BRAP panel will be joining us here shortly, but I do have a special guest with me, returning guest. We have Ramon Terrell. Ramon, you are an author, you act. Am I missing anything else here that you do? You are a talented individual, so I want to make sure I have all bases covered.
Oh man, I appreciate that. Yeah, you got it. Author and actor. I write epic fantasy. I have an urban fantasy series, but my primary genre is epic fantasy. And then on the acting side, yeah, it's whatever job I can get.
I hear you. I hear you. And one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on is because as most, I would imagine most people are aware, there's a strike right now in Hollywood. The actors have gone on strike, and so we'll talk about that here in a little bit. It's actually the Actors Union, which is the SAG-AFTRA. I hope I pronounced that correctly, by the way. SAG-AFTRA. They are. Is that correct, Ramon?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So they have about 160,000 members. Those members include actors in film, TV shows, and as well as video game performers, which I wasn't aware that video game performers were part of this union. Radio presenters, models, and YouTube influencers are part of the union as well. So we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. Also going to discuss some changes over with Xbox. I never thought I'd see the day that that Xbox Live wouldn't be front and center. That's changed now, and so we're going to discuss this major change and whether or not Xbox might be, or Microsoft may be, pivoting in terms of its marketing of its gaming platform. And I think, I don't want to speak out for Slow-Mo, but I believe Slow-Mo may have said this could happen. So we'll discuss that in a little bit as well. And we're also going to discuss Sega. Sega's actually in the news. They're considering some reboots of their popular IPs as well, on top of making new content. But and then we do have some Microsoft Activision merger, or I should say acquisition updates. The deal is, this thing seems to be over, Ramon, but we'll see. We'll talk about.
I really
that
hope it's over. Oh my God, I hope it's over.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm kind of at the point where I just want it to be over, and I see people talking about who's next. So I don't want to see who's next. I don't want I don't want mass consolidation in the gaming industry, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. And actually, I'm actually working on putting together a BRAP rant with Game Logic. We're trying to just nail down the time. We're gonna shoot for tomorrow before DPS, but I don't think that's going to happen. So we're probably looking at, I would guess probably sometime this weekend. But if you're not following me on Twitter, give me a follow at BRAP_podcast, or even better, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, so you're notified when we go live. So this BRAP rant will be a live rant, and we're gonna talk a little bit about the outcome here. We're gonna talk about just our observations of the gaming community and how the gaming community discuss this particular acquisition and media coverage, how the media covered and things like that. So certainly keep an eye out for that. But there's certainly some other news that we will talk about as well. So Ramon, it's been a while since we've had you on the show, and I know we were discussing gaming earlier, but what games are you playing right now? I probably know the answer, but please share with the listeners what you're playing at the moment.
Well, after couple of months of Tears of the Kingdom, I finally jumped into Elden Ring, And it's actually kind of funny because after playing Tears of the Kingdom from launch up to a couple weeks ago, I start up Elden Ring, and I immediately was startled when I got to an area and something like I don't know, something happened behind me, and I heard it because I have a surround system, and it's like I had forgotten what it was like to play games in surround sound because
Yeah.
Nintendo, I mean, God bless them, but oh my God, like, so, but no, Elden Ring is what I'm playing right now. I'm probably about 20-ish hours in, and I'm really enjoying it a lot.
Let me ask you something. So, because that's actually quite, I think, a daunting task to go from Tears of the Kingdom, which is a very long game, and to dive into an open world game, and then dive into another open world game. I mean, that's a lot. But
Yeah.
I'm still playing Tears of the Kingdom after beating Final Fantasy 16. I was actually playing that before, and then I was actually playing Final Fantasy 16 and Diablo 4, and then I'm sorry, I was playing Tears of the Kingdom and Diablo 4, and then Final Fantasy 16 released, and so I started playing that, and actually did finally complete the game. And I'm really enjoying Tears of the Kingdom. I was had a conversation with Game Logic earlier today, and I said to him, "There's something like relaxing about me playing. For me, at least, it's very relaxing for me to play Tears of the Kingdom. I don't know what it is. I could be traversing across a mountain,
I can tell you what it is.
Yeah.
So, Tears of the Kingdom is fantasy. And well, just like any genre, it could be any genre for that matter, but fantasy typically really jumps into this. So, like, okay, take Lord of the Rings. The main character in Lord of the Rings is actually Middle Earth, and it plays heavily into wonder. It's the wonder of the world that you're in. Game of Thrones, you could possibly say that too, because Westeros is brutal, but not quite so much. Not quite so much. But like with Lord of the Rings, the main character very much is Middle Earth and the wonder that it brings. Tears of the Kingdom, the world that they created, this iteration of Hyrule, is very much center stage, and it's the captivating, like there's a captivating quality to it where you can just, because of the soft colors, and I mean the design choices they made were very specific, primarily because the hardware, right? It can handle that, but it also plays well into this, the Switch's abilities, and the softness of the color palette and just the design of the world and everything. There's a charm to it that you can just go around for hours and hardly progress the story, which in my opinion is actually one of the things that annoys me, because once you finish the game, you can't explore anymore. It's done.
It's done. Yeah.
I think I know why, because there's no more Blood Moon, which means there's nothing else to fight. But the very thing they did so well would make it fine for you to explore without doing any fighting, because you can still help people out and help rebuild their village or whatever. But I think my hypothesis is that you can't, there's nothing else left to fight, so they just end it.
Yeah, you're right, because once the Blood Moon is, you solve that problem, then it's pretty much game over. Yeah, and you find Zelda and everything. So but it's just, you're right, it's the fantasy world. For me, it's what's waiting for me over that hill, what's waiting for me over this mountain. And I was pleasantly surprised a couple of times where I discovered caves, or I ran into enemies I haven't encountered before.
Yeah.
And so it's that I guess curiosity, and just like you said, it being in a fantasy world. But it's oddly enough, I think there's few games I can remember that when I'm playing them, they're kind of relaxing.
Yeah.
And this is it. It just has that, and the gameplay mechanics are exceptional in that game.
Yeah. The building is just mind blowing.
The building
literally, if you can think of it, you can do it.
Yeah, it really is, and it's it's just again. I mean, considering the hardware limitations of the Nintendo Switch, these guys at Nintendo, they're just wizards. I mean, the level of quality, and it's not just Tears of the Kingdom. You look at some of the other games that they released, first party games. they like I'm listening to E2KG, which is Game Enough to Keep Going, Game Logic's YouTube channel, and Talmaster is one of the co-hosts there, brought up that he had just gone back to playing Mario Odyssey, and Mario Odyssey is a really good game, and I think that was a launch game with the Switch, if I remember correctly. I don't remember. I think it was.
I think it was that one and Breath of the Wild.
Breath of the Wild. Yeah, and I feel like, and I could be wrong, but I feel like there was a lot, and rightfully so, there's a lot of conversation with Breath of the Wild as opposed to Mario Odyssey. But Mario Odyssey's again, great gameplay mechanics, fun gameplay. As skeptical I was of Mario and using his cap to traverse and take over enemies, it actually they worked pretty well. It was a nice addition to the gameplay of Mario.
It really was. It really was. The fact that I played through the entire game speaks to its quality, because I'm not much of a Mario fan, and the Nintendo kind of sits in a weird place for me, because most of their magic doesn't really really work with me. Breath of the Wild sold me my original Switch, and then when Tears of the Kingdom was taking so long and no news, and I already don't really play most Nintendo games anyway, I was just kind of like, man, I'm tired of I'm tired of their shit. And so I sold it. I kid you not. As I was selling it, the back of my mind was like, fool, now that you've sold it, they're going to talk about it. I kid you not. 6 weeks after I sold my Switch, then they released that, the trailer for Tears of the Kingdom. And I just looked at the screen. It was just like, I can't believe it. So, the whole time I was just trying to tell myself, you don't need to Switch right now. You can always get it later. You don't need to Switch right now. And right up to about 2 weeks before Tears of the Kingdom launched, I found a kid who was selling his Monster Hunter Rise Edition Switch, complete with Monster Hunter Rise Pro controller and like a bunch of different accessories for it, everything. Like, I got a whole bunch of stuff for the price of the base model Switch. Like up here, the Switch is $399 for the base model. You can barely even find that anymore. So like, I got a really good deal on it. I was just like, man, screw it. I'm just going to go ahead and get it. So then I got that, and then I got Breath of the Wild back. And so thoroughly enjoyed Tears of the Kingdom. And I know you said I jumped from one big game into another. Well, I kind of trapped myself, because I have a personal rule where I don't buy a new game until I finish the one that I'm playing. And I had Elden Ring from a Black Friday sale last year. So it was the one unplayed game in my backlog. So I'm like, I'm not buying a new game until I play the games that I own. So that's why I jumped into that massive Elden Ring.
I hear you. But yeah, I'm really enjoying Tears of the Kingdom as well. But Elden Ring, like, have you played the other, like, what other Souls games have you played previous to Elden Ring?
I got Demon Souls Remake, and
it's a great remake.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Like, the game is fantastic top to bottom, but I just think it doesn't quite. I don't think I'm quite the audience for it. Like, there were a few things that kind of annoyed me, like the world tendencies. Like, there are certain things you can only get in pure black tendency, and then things you can get in pure white tendency. And then, like, so that kind of, it kind of was, I found to be, I don't know, a little bit tedious. Like, especially when there's certain things you have to get in order to make it more easily through areas where you would otherwise, like, be like maybe 1 or 2 steps below impossible. And the other thing is, I don't really like gross stuff too much. And there's one level with these freaking, like, these monsters. It's like a dark area, and there are these grotesque monsters running up that I wish I could remember what they're called, but that grossed me out, so I wasn't feeling that. And then just like the doom and gloom, like, areas, most of them were like gloomy and dark and dank. I get it. That's that's what the game is. So that's not a criticism. That is absolutely not a criticism. It's just me realizing, okay, this isn't really my style of game. So like the game is fantastic. Like I can appreciate the quality of it, but it's just not my type of game.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I mean, it's, it's, I don't recall being grossed up by enemies. I'm actually curious to see which enemy types you're talking about, but yeah, I don't remember being grossed out by them.
Yeah, I wish I could remember the level, but you're running around on these like on these wooden you're running around on these wooden paths over a swamp, and then there's these things scuttling around on the wooden pathways, and I think they spit like a green poison at you or something like that. They're really, really gross. I'll never forget how gross they are.
Yeah, I don't remember. Yeah. So are you pretty close to completing the game or finishing it?
Oh no, man! I'm only about 20 something hours into.
Oh, you got a ways to go.
I got a long way to go.
Got a long way to go.
I decided to do some leveling up first, so I farmed that steel ball. I've been farming the hell out of that.
Is that still there? Can you still farm that?
Yeah, you can still farm it. So it's funny because I beat what's his name? Not Godric, Margit. So I beat Margit. It took me probably about 10 tries. And then after that, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and level up, spend some time and level up. So I put the sound on mute and I turned on an audiobook that I was listening to, and I just spent like 45 minutes farming that steel ball.
I used to do that during podcasts. I would just farm.
Yeah.
Like I would sit on Crossfire and I would just farm the the rock or the boulder, whatever it is. I would farm, and that's how I leveled up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know that was still there. I was gonna say I didn't know that was still there. I thought they would patch that a while ago.
Well, I'm glad they didn't, because otherwise, man.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Yeah, I can't imagine. But well, when you finish it, I'm interested to get your thoughts of the game afterwards.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But are you playing any other games besides Elden Ring?
No, I'm pretty boring that way. I'm like, I start one game and that's the only game that I play. The only time I'll ever play a game alongside one that I'm playing is if it's like a racing game. So like, if I had been at the time playing Forza Horizon 5, then I'd be playing that. I'd maybe switch over if I wanted a break, but no, I'll be playing Elden Ring till I'm done.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of games coming out too. Like I think about the games that are. Yeah, I mean it's.
Oh my God, it's killing me.
Yeah, I got to go back to Diablo 4 at some point. I have a coworker that's playing it right now. He's like level 30, and he picked up the game after I did. I'm like, I got to meet up with you and grind out a little bit. But I keep thinking of some of the bigger titles that are coming out in September. Spider-Man and not Spider-Man. Spider-Man comes in October, but Starfield is coming out in September.
Yeah.
And that's, if you played other Bethesda games, those aren't small games.
God, dude.
They tend to take some time.
Starfield will be the exception to my rule. Like Starfield is so massive that like I don't want to be playing that game for a solid year. So like I'm gonna play when I start it. I'm gonna play it for probably about maybe 30-ish hours to make sure that I've got the how you get the muscle memory for a game and then you can leave it and come back to it and you still know what you're doing. So I'm gonna do that for maybe about 30 something hours, 30 or 40 hours, and then I'll play something else. Spider-Man will be coming out, and that for me personally, Spider-Man is above anything else that I want to play. So like, I'll get in a good 30 hours or so, hopefully, of Starfield before Spider-Man comes out. And then, I'll do Spider-Man and then come back to Starfield and then play something else that comes out and then go back to Starfield again. But I think that's one of those games we'll be playing for years off and on because it's just so much.
I mean, people do that right now with Skyrim. I mean, people are still playing it.
Yeah.
With a piece of community.
Discovering new stuff.
Yeah. and the PC community has done a lot of support with mods for Skyrim. You gotta imagine that we're gonna see that with the PC community for Starfield, where you'll see mods. So I'll be playing Starfield on PC. I feel like that's gonna be the definitive version of that game.
Well, yeah, you did this. I mean, well, that's an obvious fact, but what I'm hoping some things that I'm working on, if they turn out, then I'm going to hold off on Starfield just long enough to build myself a way over the top PC, and then I'll play it on that. But if the writer's strike goes too long and this project I'm working on gets delayed, then I'll just go ahead and grab it on Xbox, because when I eventually build my PC, I can, as far as I understand, I'll be able to just like, I guess like move my, like, I'll be able to play the game on PC even though I bought it on Xbox or something like that.
Yeah, if you have Game Pass Ultimate, you can play
What
it
if
on
you-
PC. Mm-hmm.
What if you bought it though? Is it only Game Pass? Because I'm not sub to Game Pass. I'm just gonna buy it.
You know what? That's a great question. I'm not entirely. I think so. I think if you buy a first party game on Xbox, you download it to your account, I think it's, I'm almost positive that you can actually play it on PC as well. I think that's one of the perks, cross-play.
Yeah, hopefully so, because then, if
Cross-play,
I have started it, then I
cross-save,
can just
yeah.
move it over to that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. That's actually a great question. I haven't thought, because I've been in my Game Pass subscription is going to be running up. I think at the end of the year, so just in time for Starfield. If I can, the thing is, I kind of like I need to beat Starfield before my Game Pass subscription runs up, because if not, then I'm going to have to buy it. Maybe I'll renew it for like a month. I think they have like a month subscription or something. I may need to do that or 3 months, whatever. Captain Ply saying you won't be able to mod a Game Pass game.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that.
Yeah, so
I don't even have Game Pass. So.
Yeah, that's interesting. I thought that Captain Ply, could be wrong, but I thought that the Xbox would allow for community mods too. Maybe not mods to the extent that you would find on the PC, but I thought that some form or some types of mods would be available. I could be wrong, but I'd have to look into that again. Yeah,
I really wish they could come up with a mod for making NPCs that look alive.
Yeah, right.
Oh my God, man! Like,
maybe.
if they could have just
hey, AI,
scale back on the planets and scale back on the sandwiches, and then maybe we could have got some living NPCs in 60 frames. But
yeah, I feel like that's kind of an old design choice. Like this idea of creating these massive worlds where you can do all these things. I just don't. For me, that just doesn't move the needle anime.
Well,
like it doesn't serve any purpose to the narrative, to the experience. Me personally, again, I mean, maybe someone wants to hoard sandwiches and that's their thing, but to me, it's just a waste of resources, in my opinion.
That's my opinion. Like my thing is they went the simulation route, so anything that's in the game remains in the game no matter where you are, which I mean, okay, it's one of those things where you can do it, but why would you? And then it also like the whole purpose of the architecture that the console has with the machine learning, the VRS, the VRR, how you can, when you're not looking in a direction, there's nothing there, but the minute you flash over there, it's there because it can load it in that quickly. Like, that's the whole purpose of having stuff like that, to where they can save the resources, because if I'm not looking at it, why does it even need to be there? Because the minute I look over there, it's going to be there. So it's like the whole thing about RDNA 2 and all the architecture that went into the box, like, they didn't use I mean, maybe I'm wrong because I'm not a software developer, so maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but it just seems like they could have, like, instead of going the simulation route and having all the assets there all the time, like, utilize the shortcut tools that the box has built in, so that we can, maybe get better performance and some more lifelike NPCs. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm oversimplifying it, but I just feel like they probably could have, you know, maybe not have 1,000 planets, maybe have 500 planets. I doubt I'll visit all of the custom made planets, let alone like all 1,000. Like 500 planets is a lot. You know what I mean? Like, just, but I don't know. Like, it's his vision, it's not my vision. So, you know, I'm not the one that made the game. So.
Hey, speaking of games, yeah, there's one game. I know this is not a topic. Star Wars Outlaws. Like, I'm actually really looking forward to that game. Games Radar. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I said me too.
Yeah, Games Radar just had an article early in the day today where they said that the Star Wars Outlaw will take cues from the original trilogy visually, including things like vignetting, film grain, lens breathing, thicker lens curvature, and so forth. The developer saying our game is set between Empire and Jedi, so we wanted to emulate that feel. So I'm.
Oh man!
I hear that. I'm like, okay, just I'm. This could be day one for me.
When does that? It's 2024, right?
I believe so. I don't remember. I don't recall.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness. Hell, delay it. Do anything. Like, just give me time to get to it, man. Because between Starfield, Spider-Man, like, I still haven't played Hogwarts Legacy. I still haven't played.
I haven't either.
I still haven't played Final Fantasy 16. Like, I grabbed Forspoken on sale, so that's next up for me after Elden Ring, and then Final Fantasy 16, assuming like I get to that before Spider-Man and Starfield come out. So I'm just can't keep up.
Yeah, there's a lot of games. Remnant 2, Captain Price says Remnant 2. Yeah, not on my radar right now, just because I have so much other stuff to play right now, Captain Bly. A lot of stuff. I mean, and that's kind of been I think the disappointing thing with the discourse in gaming in light of the acquisition of ABK by Microsoft is that a lot of people just stopped talking about games. And I get it. Like, it's a hot news item, but there really is. There's just a ton of stuff out there right now. And there's a lot of games that are releasing, the next couple months.
Man, I kid you not. Like, people were so like fascinated, were like so invested in this ABK deal. And I'm over here, like, I'm trying to scrounge up every like bit of free time that I have for gaming. Like, you know what I mean? Like, go to work, come home, spend some time with the wife, hang out, do, and then whatever chores and life stuff that I have to do. And then, I as funny as this sounds, I rarely watch TV. So it's like gaming is my TV. And, I don't get to game every day. So it's just like, I see folks talking about ABK, and I'm like, man, I wish I had some of that free time, because I'm trying to scrounge up as many minutes as I can to, like, play some of these games. Like, we're drowning in games right now, and people are talking about ABK. Like, we're literally drowning in games, dude. Like,
yeah,
I haven't seen a year this stacked in a long time. And I'm looking at that AA game, Atlas Falls. That game looks impressive. I really hope it turns out the way it looks. Stacked. Just a stacked year.
Yeah, I'm looking up Remnant 2 right now. Remnant 2 I think Gearbox is publishing it. Now it's a sequel from Remnant. See, I wish Slow-Mo was here, because he played Remnant from the Ashes, and I think he was kind of mixed on it. Again, I don't want to speak for him, but
I remember the Ashes, he did one of his lunchtime with Slow-Mos, and he did seem kind of mixed on it, I think. And I think he played with Luca, the Ashen Luca, but I
think
don't
he did
remember
too,
100%, but I think so, yeah. And I remember them having fun, but it was a little bit kind of middle of the road for them.
Because I believe Remnant is a Souls-like game, but like it's a shooter. It's like a shooter inspired by like Souls-like video games. So like, so like the player could wield two guns, that's actually kind of. So you can wield two guns, and then you also have your melee weapon. Like where like in Bloodborne, you had your melee weapon. You actually had a pistol you could use too to stun enemies. So and then there's different character archetypes that you can pick from. But I didn't play it. But no, it looks interesting. It's I don't know if it's something I'll pick up because there's just like I said, I gotta get through Tears of the Kingdom, and I believe that Remnant 2 comes out next week, if I'm not mistaken. I think the 25th of July.
Oh, okay. Oh, Arcade 4247 just said that Slow Mo played and beat it with Ash and Luca, and he's looking forward to part 2.
Ah, okay. Yeah, Corey Bass saying Remnant is one of those games that really works when you play in a group. Definitely recommend for co-op.
Yeah, co-op is kind of a funny thing for me because I played the beta of Diablo 4 with Eric Jackson and Slow Mo, and had a blast, had a great time. But man, like, I guess maybe it's just the type of gamer I am, but like when it was coming out, like I'm looking at it and I'm just like, okay, you know, am I gonna play co-op with this? And then all of these other games that are coming out that I'm already like just completely like barely treading water trying to, so I'm so into like my story driven games and my, single player type games, or even like something like Elden Ring where a friend can join in with you. So that's why a lot of times I end up missing out on multiplayer games, even though I want to play with all my friends. Like I want to, but man, these single player games come out and I'm just like, I gotta play them. So I don't know.
I hear you. Again, this is a good problem to have, having all these games. And actually, speaking again, this is not a topic, but an official topic. But speaking of Nintendo, because we were talking about Nintendo earlier, Pikmin 4 was just reviewed, and the reviews were pretty solid. It's last I checked, it was Metacritic 88, OpenCritic 88.
Oh wow! I'm actually curious about that because I've never played one before.
I haven't played Pikmin in quite some time. I don't even remember the premise of it, to be honest with you. I remember like running around with those little Pikmin creature type thingies, but yeah. I don't remember. I feel like maybe, oh man, I'm getting old, Ramon. That's part of the problem.
We're the same age, bro.
Are we the same age?
I'm 47.
Okay, I mean you got a year on me.
Okay,
but we're pretty much the same age. Yeah, Pikmin is one of those like real time strategy like puzzle video games. And for those who don't know, it's Miyamoto's the creator behind the game. But I want to say I played Pikmin. I want to say on the GameCube. So that was probably like 20 something years ago. I think that was the first time. Yeah, that's why I don't remember, because that's the last time I played was on the GameCube. That was like 2001. 2000, yeah. I think they released a sequel in 2004, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, the first time I heard about Pikmin was actually, I want to say maybe 3, and I remember looking at it because, like I say, Nintendo was rarely on my radar. Well, Nintendo wasn't on my radar until two things happened. They funded Bayonetta 2. And I cursed them to holy hell because I had it on PS3 and I heard about Bayonetta 2 and I got excited, and it was like, only on Nintendo, and I'm like, son of a bitch. So that and Breath of the Wild were what sold me my Switch. So and then once you're in an ecosystem, you start looking around to see what other games you might want to play, right? And so I saw Pikmin 3 and I'm like, oh, I wonder what that is. That looks interesting, but I never grabbed it. So maybe I'll take a look at Pikmin 4, but I'm gonna wait a while. I know Switch games go on sale, and I hate to use the U word, used, but I'm sorry, man. The standard Switch game price, which is the last gen price except for Tears of the Kingdom, is $79.99 up here. Which I'm not paying that for a Nintendo game. Tears of the Kingdom is the only game that I will pay that for. Otherwise, I'm getting it on sale or getting it used because I just refuse. And like Tears of the Kingdom, I actually paid the launch price, which was $89.99 up here. So yeah, I'll eventually jump into Pikmin, but it's gonna be a while.
Yeah, Jeff B. Games says Switch games take forever to go on sale. I mean, he's not wrong.
If they go on sale.
Yeah, even if you go to GameStop, I wish Forte was here. You go to the local GameStop, they're like $5 cheaper than the new retail version. Yeah,
exactly. No, man, I go on Facebook Marketplace and I look for used copy. Like, I'm sorry, man. Like, if you put it on sale, I'll buy it. You know what I mean? Like, but I'm not paying like $95 something for a Switch game, with the exception of Zelda. So, nah, no.
Hey, you know what's also coming out too, as we talk about games? Baldur's Gate 3.
You know what? I'm like, until sometime, hopefully in the near future, I'm primarily 100% console gamer. So the only thing I know about Baldur's Gate is that it's Forgotten Realms and that the games exist. I don't know anything about them. I remember seeing the teaser trailer and it looked really interesting because that dude turned into an illithid, which was trippy. Mm-hmm. But other than that, yeah, I don't really know anything about Baldur's Gate. It looks really interesting though.
Yeah, it's basically a D&D influenced RPG series is probably the best way I could describe it. Yeah, I mean, and so it's Larian Studios. Larian's the other games that Larian's made is Divinity. I can't even talk. Divinity Original Sin, Divinity Original Sin 2.
Oh, I've heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So talented studio behind this game, and the game's going to be releasing on PC in August. I actually Corey Massey in the live chat. Was it Corey? No, yeah, Corey Massey live chat said August 3rd for PC, September 6th for PS5, and then the Xbox versions. I don't think I've been in
TBA. Yes, TBA.
Yeah, the Xbox the Xbox Series versions are in, I guess, development still. I guess
they're fighting with the Series S behind the co-op.
Yeah, the co-op. Yeah, so I'm trying to see what other games Larian. So they did Divinity. I think that's been pretty much it. They've actually done some educational games, believe it or not. But
oh, really?
Yeah, but no, it's that's another game that's coming out. So, Baldur's Gate, man. I know a lot of people when that got announced. A lot of people were very excited for Baldur's Gate because I think Baldur's Gate. When's the last time a Baldur's Gate came out?
Oh man.
Yeah, I know BioWare. I think had I think the original Baldur's Gate goes back 20 because I remember playing it. Oh man, geez, this is because
it was strictly PC before Part 3, right?
Yeah, it was. Shit, I think it was like 98, 97, 98. I'm gonna shit, I don't remember. It was like 20 something years ago. I know I was like either 20 or 21 when the first Baldur's Gate came out. So, the last one was there was a Baldur's Gate Sea of Dragonspear which came out in I think 2016, 2015, 2016.
It's gonna be interesting to see.
Yeah, there's been some other ones. There's been some other ones, but that was my first time playing. I think, and that was, like I said, back 20 something years ago. But I think BioWare was developer at one point for Baldur's Gate, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong, but I feel like I believe they were.
I just saw what was this real quick? I just saw Jeff B. Gaming was talking about the games coming out next month. What do you think about Immortals of Aveum?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What was that? Could you repeat that again?
I was saying I was looking at Jeff B. Gaming over here. Who was talking about the games coming out next month, and I was just curious. Like, what do you think about Immortals of Aveum?
I'm not. I don't know, man. I really don't have any. it hasn't really moved the needle for me. Like, it's not something I'm following or interested in.
Like for me, when I saw the gameplay and everything, I actually thought it looked pretty exciting, so I wish listed it. And I was watching Skill Up's impressions of it, and often, not always, and that's to be expected because we're two different humans, but oftentimes I actually agree with some of his takes. And I was watching it, and he's like, I find some of you know the content a little bit kind of Hollywood cringe, and he's like, "Here, take a look." And it showed a cutscene with I wish I could remember the name of the actor, but she's been into like a whole bunch of stuff. But anyway, um, it was the acting was good, but it was very Hollywood. And so I was looking at it, I was just like, I see what you're saying. So now I'm like, so now it's kind of it's got a question mark over it, because I don't know if I can, you know, if they go too Hollywood with the writing and everything, then it might kind of kill it for me. So I'm just kind of in a wait and see type thing right now.
Yeah. Armor Core comes out. That's a From Software game. Looking forward to Armor
That's a
Core.
hard no for me. That's a hard no.
And of course, there's
It
Madden.
looks good. Yeah.
Yeah, Jeff P. Gaming saying Madden as well. Yes, Madden is coming out. We this is why competition is important. We need a competitor to Madden because Madden has been kind of hasn't. Yeah.
Oh, dude, who was it? I think it might have been Angry Joe. He had me on the floor laughing because he was just chopping up Madden. I don't know if it was Madden 23 or Madden 22, but he was like, look in the background. And you look in the background, and the developers forgot to switch out the Madden banners from the previous year in the game that you're playing. So if it was like Madden 22, they forgot to switch out Madden 21.
Oh,
so
my
it said
goodness.
Madden 2021
That is
in the
funny.
background. So they literally copied and pasted. Like, people throw around the whole copy and pasted this and that content, but they literally copied and pasted it. It was absolutely hilarious and like disgraceful at the same time.
Oh my goodness, that's actually pretty funny.
Yeah, we do need competition because otherwise you get stuff like that.
Yeah. Dr. Martin Van Nostrand says, can we get a reported bit like an on the scene with Florian or pose for an FTC CMA update? Florian Mueller is paid by Microsoft to doing what he's doing right now. That much should be obvious to many people. If it's not, I don't know what rock you've been sleeping under. It's quite obvious that he's being paid. Post Up's doing pro bono work, but God bless him for doing that. We don't. I'm not going to do any on the scene reporting. We'll talk about the update here in a little bit. Guys, there was something else that came up that what is it? As we talk about video games, I want to go back to Starfield because Starfield. This is just based on Bethesda's pedigree and my own opinion of what they showed recently. Maybe Game of the Year conversation, man. What do you think? I know Logic says it's too early to discuss Game of the Year, but I say it's never too early. Ramon, do we lose you? I hope we didn't lose him. All right, I think we may have lost Ramon.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yep, I can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah, I made the mistake of touching my USB cord for my mic, and then it gets really fickle. So I'm just
don't do that anymore.
Jeez. But I kind of think like Logic on this. Like it's too early, but based on what I've seen, it looks like a strong possibility. I mean, there should be an award for just scope alone because the scope of the game is absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, I may criticize that it's just too much and that they could probably scale back for this, that, and another. But fact of the matter is, the scope of the game is absolutely mind blowing. And if they pull it off and it actually like runs well, and I mean, obviously it's gonna have bugs. Like any game of that size, these giant open world games, man, they're so complex. You're gonna have bugs as long as it's nothing game breaking. You know what I mean? Like, they'll have bugs. I heard that they don't patch their bugs, which is unfortunate. But all things considered, what I've seen, I think it's definitely a possibility. But I'll have to actually until I see gameplay or experience it first. I feel kind of hesitant to say just yet.
Yeah, and for me, it goes back just the pedigree of Bethesda.
Yeah,
Skyrim, Fallout. And I just think this is going to be one of those big, ambitious games. I know a lot of people bring up Fallout 76. Todd Howard actually wasn't as involved in development of that game as he was working on Starfield, but not an excuse. Just
it's not an excuse.
That game still should have. Yeah, the game still should have released better.
And every studio has a hiccup at some point or another. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And that's not to say we should buy games that aren't good, but they're human beings are behind this stuff, right? So you're gonna have a hiccup at some point where it's gonna be a less than satisfactory game, and it just happens. It happens in every medium. There's no artist you listen to on the radio who hasn't had a dud here and there in the form of a track or a CD. You know what I mean? It's just it's human beings. But I do think there's a lot to be said about the pedigree, though, because they've definitely released far more amazing games than they have not amazing games. So
yeah,
at least I think.
Yep. Well, we have some news from our friends across the pond, those in Europe. The European, this is according to Christopher Dring at gamesindustrybiz.com. I would encourage anyone who is looking for a good gaming website to check out gameindustry.biz. They actually do great reporting. So according to gameindustry.biz, European video game sales in June jumped 20%. Thanks to Diablo 4. PS5 continues to dominate across the continent. So 15.5 million games were sold across Europe last month. And they actually, the article actually breaks down the top games. Diablo 4 was comfortably the best-selling game of the month, and it's the second fastest-selling game of the year behind Hogwarts Legacy. Eclipsing Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, which is now the third fastest-selling game. And over 66% of Diablo 4 sales were on PC. That actually doesn't surprise me, Ramon, that a Blizzard game would see the majority of its sales on PC, especially Diablo, right? I feel like that's
of course.
More associated with PC.
Yeah, it is.
It's interesting. This is first Diablo to release both on PC and console at the same time.
Yeah, I think especially now that you have console hardware that can handle these types of games, respectively, I think we'll start to see more and more of these types of games that can have crossover. I mean, there's certain games that just lend themselves to PC, especially, the ones that are like primarily mouse and keyboard. But like, I think games like, your Diablos and your Baldur's Gate, I think we'll start to see more of those coming around on console.
Yeah. So 66% of Diablo 4 sales were on PC. Over 21% on PS5, just under 9% on Xbox Series S and X. The remaining 4% was on 4. It's when we talk about the Xbox Series consoles and we provide an analysis of the performance of the Series S and X. The thing that's kind of frustrating, Ramon, is that many of the responses are, "Oh, you just hate Xbox." It's like, no, these are tangible numbers here. You're seeing the performance delta, the difference between the PS5 and the Xbox Series S and X in terms of how games are selling. I mean, this isn't the gap between PS5 and Series consoles in terms of sales. Those aren't. I mean, again, it's not. We see it here in the U.S. We see it, overseas in Europe. I mean, it's not.
Facts are facts.
Facts are facts. I don't, like I tell people, look, I'm a Washington Commanders fan, unfortunately, And they were terrible under Dan Snyder. Like me saying, look, if I'm using historical benchmarks of Dan Snyder as an owner compared to Jack Kent Cooke, it's clear that Jack Kent Cooke was a better owner based on the win record as owner, and the fact that Jack Kent Cooke won 3 Super Bowls and I think went to 5 under his ownership. I mean, those are tangible things that you just can't dispute. It has nothing to do with hating on the Xbox. Look, when Sony, like people are like, oh, you always critique Xbox. Well, yeah, I do, because Xbox tends to they've had more issues even this gen, and I thought they would have less issues coming in this gen, I actually thought they wouldn't have as many issues coming into this generation, but they continue to have some misses, some issues still, which we'll see if those issues get ironed out, if they're able to resolve those issues. I'm not so sure that buying a bunch of publishers and studios are going to help that. We'll see, because again, if you look at the body of work that, I think we talked about this before we went live, the body of work that Microsoft has done over the last 20 years, all but one generation, they went neck to neck with Sony, and even that generation, they still had some issues with regards to with the 360 generation with the Red Ring of Death. So, I would probably grade Xbox's 20-year history as not terrible, but not as good as Microsoft, or not as good as Sony and Nintendo's.
Yeah.
And we could point to, I think, tangible evidence and performance as proof of that. Again, that's not to say that Xbox sucks and they don't do anything well. They just don't do things as well as I think Nintendo and Sony have done the past 20 years.
Yeah, that's it's kind of funny, because I once my beloved Sega finally tapped out of the console market, then I was kind of primarily PlayStation, because Nintendo's always been kind of like cold and hot, more cold than hot for me. So I was on PlayStation, and then when the Xbox came out, the first one, I grabbed it because Ninja Gaiden came out, and I was not about to miss that. And I owned it long enough to beat Ninja Gaiden and one other game that I can't think of at the time at the moment, before my Xbox died. And I always buy extended warranties, so I took it in. And it's funny, because 360 is the what is Xbox is known for as far as like the heavy failure rate. I went through 3 original Xboxes before they finally, before GameStop finally threw in the towel, and they're like, man, I'm sorry, you want us to just give you a refund? And I take care of my stuff. Like, I'm not one of those people that have roaches all in my consoles. I keep them, I dust my consoles, I keep them in ventilated area. I'm very meticulous. I don't know if you've seen the picture of my home theater setup. I'm minimalistic when it comes to certain things, and I'm very meticulous. So I took care of that stuff, and I went through 3 of them before I threw in the towel. So I didn't own an Xbox again after that until the Series X. And what sold me the Series X was it started when they bought Ninja Theory. I was like, okay, it looks like they're getting serious. And then what tipped me over the edge was when they bought ZeniMax. I was like, okay, I'm in. They've got enough studios now. The naive me got enough. I was like, they got enough studios. They're serious about this. All right, let's go. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna have a second console for the first time in a long time. And like you, I wasn't expecting these difficulties. And some people might say, oh, they sold you on hope. Okay, yeah, maybe they sold me on hope. But what I can say is, Porter Rock's brother, Doc Dark.
Yeah. Yep. Good. Big shout out to Doc Dark. Yep.
Yeah, shout out to Doc Dark. That dude be having me on the floor sometimes.
He's funny.
Well, we actually have in common that this is our first generation with Xbox. I mean, like I said, I owned the OG Xbox, but literally I only owned it for about 3 weeks, right? 3-4 weeks. So for all intents and purposes, you could say that this is my first Xbox, because I actually have owned it since launch. And like him, I've been experiencing some of the the IP, some of the games that I never experienced before. The I had to hunt down the first 3 Forza Horizon. Well, mostly the first 2. I had to hunt down the first 2 Forza Horizons because you can't buy them. And this is the one of the things. This is the reason why I will never ever own a digital only console, is because I could not. They do not sell Forza Horizon 1, 2, or 3 in the Xbox store or the Microsoft store or whatever, the Xbox store. They only sell 4, and then when 5 came out. So I actually had to hunt those down on disc. And like just from 1 all the way to 5, I absolutely loved every single one of them. And I mean, like Forza 5 was just like, it's just chef's kiss, right? But, so I've been experiencing those games. I haven't gotten around to Gears of War. I'm not really sure if it's for me. I might try it out. Maybe I'll sub to Game Pass for a month and try it out. But, I've been, experiencing the stuff that I missed out on. But outside of Hi-Fi Rush, right now, that's the only game that I want to play on it until Starfield comes out. So, that is kind of what's pushed me to say, okay, I think I'm just going to build a PC and then sell my Xbox eventually. And then I'm just going to stick with PlayStation and PC with, Nintendo whenever they drop something I like.
Yeah.
And actually, not even then, because I can just purchase the Nintendo game and then emulate it on PC, because I'm not about stealing shit. So, I will purchase. And that is when I will purchase the game at full price. I won't buy it used. I will purchase the game at full price because I'm going to emulate it on hardware on PC so that I can play it at respectable performance.
Yeah. Also with the Europe June sales, hardware PlayStation 5 was up 116%, Switch down 2.3%, Xbox Series consoles down almost 1%. So they were down actually 0.8%, so almost 1%. That the Series consoles were down. I'm not surprised to see the Switch down, considering where it is in its life cycle right now. I mean, its console's been out for about 6 years now, so no surprise.
Yeah,
but
seriously,
yeah,
no surprise at all.
Yeah, not surprised. Even with some of the price increases in Europe with the PlayStation 5, which Sony was heavily criticized for, they're still up 116%.
Well, there's a funny thing about the whole price increase and how people, were jumping on Sony about that. They did it last gen. Like, I distinctly remember, and it was why I was really, really trying my best to hurry up and get my PS5 pre-ordered, because when the PS4 came out, I had it pre-ordered and I had it day one, and I want to say it's either in the last quarter of the first year it launched or in the second year of its life cycle, it went up $50 in Canada. It went from $399 to $450. I remember that. So when people were jumping all over PlayStation for like raising the PS5's price $50, I'm like, this isn't new. Like they literally did it last gen. Like, I don't know about the PS3 because I wasn't living in Canada during the PS3 cycle, but yeah, the PS4, they did the exact same thing, and if I'm not mistaken, it was during the same time frame. And a lot of that has to do with exchange rates and how the dollars fluctuate and everything like that. So it's literally nothing new, and I was expecting that from Xbox too, because it's just, I mean,
this is why
fluctuation.
This is why fandom drives me crazy in gaming, because people stuck their heads in the sand when PlayStation did it and totally didn't want to. They just didn't understand the economic reasons why this happened. Record high inflation in Europe, the exchange rate, the Japanese yen being weaker than the Chinese yuan. I mean, like those, and people would say, oh, they should pass the cost. They should eat the cost. I mean, no company's going to eat the cost. It's just not realistic. I mean, it's so the buffoonery, some of the commentary, the buffoonery I saw over that it was almost maddening at times. I'm like, people don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, they're just talking, dude. Like, if say they lose $10 per console and they sell like 50 million consoles, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, who wants to eat more cost? Like, and I mean, Sony's making, a small amount on every console now, but it's consoles are like inkjet printers. They don't make the money on the machine. They make the money on the ink for a printer, but they make the money on the software. You know what I mean? They're not making tons of money or any.
No.
For Xbox, I don't think they make any at all. But Sony makes a modest amount.
And the other thing too is they would say things like, "Oh, Xbox would never do that," and lo and behold, Xbox did the same thing. And so it's like, guys, they're economic factors of why these companies make these decisions. And everyone, I think one Xbox centric podcast was like, "What about the kids? People are struggling to put food on the table." It's like, if you're struggling to put
exactly who you're talking about.
If you were struggling to put food on the table, you are not. Video games are not a priority for you. Like, it's just Ramon. I've got to a point now, because again, I've been part of the Twitter community, gaming Twitter community for like 10 years now, and it's progressively gotten worse. And I'm just getting tired of this stupidity. People get mad. Oh, you shouldn't call people stupid. No, I'm fed up now. I'm done. Like, if you can't stop and pump the brakes before you say something stupid like that, and understand that people who are struggling for food aren't going to be buying luxury items, and let's stop treating consoles like they're like they are items that people are entitled to.
Necessities.
They're not necessities. They're luxury items. Gaming's a luxury product. I've been gaming for 40 something years. It's always been a luxury item. It's not a necessity. People treat it like it's a necessity. It's not. But that person saying that, oh my God, Sony and they're people are struggling to put food. No, like, it's like, you're not. If that's happening in your life, gaming's not a priority.
Dude, like, I've been saying since the start of this generation that we're in a golden age of gaming, despite the negative things that have happened. And the reason I've been saying that is with this whole, struggling to put food on the table, blah, 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 blah. Never in, I've been gaming since Pong. Like, we've been gaming the same amount of time. Like, I can't recall a time in history where we have had more variety from content to price ever in gaming. You can literally, and people say, "Oh, I don't play indies, trash indies, blah blah blah." They need to pump the brakes and kind of pull back on that, because there are some amazing indie games, and indies is where innovation starts, and AAA gaming picks it up and puts more budget to it. So without indies, we wouldn't have a lot of the creative stuff that we have now. But from games like Atlas Falls that is coming out with the last gen price, and then you have indie games that come out anywhere from $20 to $40, and you have your AAA games that are, well, in the States, $70. Like, we have so much variety now in every, like, top to bottom. Like, there's something for everybody, and everybody can play something, even if they're struggling to put food on the table. Like, don't even get me started on that one.
Well, I mean, we certainly have a variety of different entry points into gaming now. We didn't have that growing up.
No, we didn't.
You went to Babbage's or KB Toys or Toys R Us, and you could only buy games. There wasn't free to play. There wasn't mobile. There wasn't any of that.
Exactly.
Yeah. I do want to move on to Microsoft Activision. Microsoft Activision have extended the acquisition deadline to October 18th. The deal was actually originally due to complete yesterday. The termination fee's actually gone up. It's raised to $4.5 billion. This, according to GameIndustry.biz again. The original fee was actually $3 billion, so it's actually gone up.
The penalty fee went up, but they also extended the close date.
Yeah, they did. And Microsoft has petitioned the FTC. This is one, I think, something that's kind of flown under the radar by some of the coverage that I've been seeing, is that, yes, the injunction hearing, obviously the judge rejected the petition by the FTC for the injunction, but the FTC still has their hearing with their own administrative law judge for August the 2nd. Microsoft has petitioned the FTC to reconsider holding that hearing on August 2nd. So Microsoft still may need to go in front of the administrative law judge of the FTC on August 2nd. We'll see if that happens. In my opinion, I think the FTC will probably have them go through it. I think one of the things that the FTC, the president of the FTC, or the message the FTC, in my opinion, is trying to make here is that, look, yeah, even with vertical mergers, we're not going to make it easy for you. And so I did hear some reporting that some companies have suggested that they may not pursue mergers because of the FTC making it more challenging for mergers to go through than they previously had. So this thing isn't entirely over just yet, Ramon, but we're getting there.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's just at this point, everything at this point is just a formality. But I know a lot of people are, like talk smack about the FTC. I personally, I agree with it, because we're talking about a multi-trillion-dollar company buying a multi-billion-dollar company and having a lot more control, not only like, in gaming, but in cloud and everything like this. Like, the magnitude of this deal is not something to just kind of pass off as, man, just let them do it. Like, dude, the sheer magnitude of this deal, like just shy of $70 billion. Like, in the entertainment industry at large, even in film, that's like, has there been a merger bigger than that? I don't know.
I forget what the Disney Fox merger
I don't
was,
even know
but
if Disney was that much.
maybe it was, Disney was like 75 billion, maybe, or 70 something billion.
Okay, so we're in striking Disney. We're in striking distance of that. I mean, that's a lot of money, dude.
It is a lot of money, and
and it's a lot of control. It's a lot of control, and that's what I think people are. Well, they're either missing or just don't want to see it because they're
yeah. Well,
their favorite team, but
yeah, the thing that's kind of concerning to me though is how people were so just like.
Wait. Yeah. I don't mean to cut you off. Ryan Landy said Xbox could have fed all the kids of those gamers with that money.
I mean, they could have addressed
starving little Timmys.
They could have addressed a lot of hunger issues globally, but yeah, I mean, it's.
And then they could game.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I guess what was really troubling for me was how nonchalant people were about this merger, like that. Yeah, just let it happen. Let's have $1 trillion company just start gobbling up massive publishers in gaming, and not even stop and actually push back on people that are like, wait a minute, like this could have some negative impact down the road for consumers, and this championing of corporations. It's concerning, that attitude of, oh, it's not a big deal. Well, no, it actually is. This idea that the FTC wasn't doing their job, and no, this is and some of the xenophobic attacks and comments about Lena Khan. I mean, that's just despicable over video games.
And then the judge who ruled against the FTC injunction getting like freaking death threats.
Yeah, and then you have fanboys like death threats. Like, that is just, it's absurd. It's ridiculous.
And yeah, I don't know. People are way off the hook, man. Like, it's I don't know. Like,
yeah.
Some of it is these people cheering for their favorite team, except these aren't teams. They're freaking mega corporations gobbling shit up and giving us less. There's the level of choice that we have shrinking, and the thing is this could, and I'm not gonna speak in absolutes, to quote Mooch, shout out to Mooch, but this could just throw the entire industry into a consolidation race. And I mean, I know that it's all cyclical, and this, I remember talking to Slow-Mo about this, and the top level developers will leave and start their own studios, and they'll be indie studios, and then eventually they'll join a platform, and then it'll wash, rinse, repeat. It'll repeat. But I'm sitting here thinking, like, on the one hand, like, people talk about Sony buying Square Enix. It's like, on the one hand, I don't want Sony to buy a publisher. I don't want them to do it. But also, if I'm putting myself in PlayStation shoes, I'm sitting there and I'm just like, okay, so we had an exclusive deal with Starfield, and they just went ahead and bought it all out from up under us. So maybe we should consider buying the studio that we have a close relationship with before something similar happens again. And I mean, it might be harder because, it's not as easy to buy a Japanese company, but still, like if I was Sony, I'd be thinking really hard about, who I don't want to get backdoored by Microsoft again. So, I think that just, there's going to be consolidation and less choice until things kind of balance out again. You there? BRAP? Oh, am I still on?
Oh, I'm
Hey,
sorry.
chat, can you guys?
I'm here.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I muted my mic by accident.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say I really can't think of specific consolidations in the industry, mass consolidations like this, where they've been beneficial to consumers. I look at the airline industry. I mean,
Yep.
I mean, airline prices aren't any cheaper. Oil and gas, energy prices aren't cheaper. ISP providers in the United States, I can't say they're cheaper or that the internet infrastructure is better. That's kind of one of the arguments has been with vertical mergers is, at least innovation and improvement. I think the U.S. is like is in the top 10, but not even the top 5 in terms of internet infrastructure. Like that is mind blowing. We're like the wealthiest country in the world.
Yeah, it's terrible. And I mean, okay, I can use telecom industry up here in Canada as an example. So there are, like, up until one company called Shaw purchased one of the smaller companies, you had Telus, Rogers, and Bell Media, right? And they were the big 3. And then you had one called Fido, which is funny. You had Fido, who was a smaller independent. See how this sounds familiar, like games? And then you had one called Wind, who eventually became Freedom Mobile. And then you have like Kudo and Virgin, right? Now, Fido eventually got bought by Telus. And then Bell purchased one of the other small ones. And then Shaw, who was not in telecom, purchased Wind. So like even the smaller, quote unquote indie providers with, inferior service but much, much cheaper ended up getting bought by the large ones. As a result, you had Rogers, Telus, and Bell all had the same pricing structure, like the same prices. Like there was literally no shopping around for the better like plan for your phone because all the plans were the same. And then you could go to the smaller carriers and the ones the couple that weren't owned, you could find good prices. But like eventually even like the smaller one, Fido, that once they became bigger, their prices were the same. So we have a lot less choice here, and as a result, like we pay some of the highest prices in mobile phone service because there's less choice. There's nobody to come in and eat their lunch because they suck, but they're so expensive. So I'm looking at people who talk about these gigantic acquisitions shrinking the market, and I'm just like, man, you're gonna find out. Like they just don't see it.
Yeah, it's really odd. I've heard arguments of, it's not illegal. They're in third place, so because they're third place in console sales, they're in second place. Microsoft's second place in terms of revenue, publishing revenue, behind Sony in the console space. So I mean, I just again I have concerns, and I think we're gonna do a BRAP rant about this later this week to kind of dive deep into a little bit more. We'll probably discuss some case studies or examples of consolidation that really hasn't benefited consumers, like the example you just gave. I mean, that's a perfect example. And then again, this idea that again, part of the one of the FTC's argument in 2010, encouraging mergers at the time. The FTC was encouraging mergers in 2010. Part of that was that vertical mergers would improve innovation and things like that, infrastructure. And look at the internet infrastructure here in the U.S. It's We're the wealthiest country in the world. We should be number one in internet infrastructure. We're not. We're like number 10, and that's embarrassing in my opinion. So
yeah,
but so we'll we still have a couple more, like a month or so or whatever, 2 more months I guess until this deal seemingly goes through, and I guess we can all move on from there. But the other thing I want to discuss too is it's major change here at Xbox. So for those who don't know, Ramon, maybe you know this or not, but I was an Xbox Live beta tester.
No freaking way.
I know. It's every time I share that with people, they're just like, they're shocked. They can't believe that I actually was an Xbox Live beta tester.
Wow, that's just like, man, they need to have like some plaques or something and have everybody's name on it, man.
Yeah. So live chat, I was an Xbox Live beta tester. By the way, we have like almost 100 people here watching. Please hit that like button if you haven't done so already. Appreciate it. Helps the channel. Yeah, I was an Xbox Live beta tester. I remember beta testing. I was part of the second round of beta testers, so I remember I actually upgraded I had AOL 56K internet at the time, and
AOL.
Yeah, Comcast just started offering broadband internet in my area, and that was part of the requirement to partake in the Xbox Live beta program. You had to have the broadband connection, so I upgraded the broadband so I could have a chance at being an Xbox Live beta tester. And I remember submitting my request, and I remember getting the email saying you've been selected. I remember the first round of emails that went out, I wasn't selected, and I remember being like really bummed out because I had a couple friends that I gamed with that were picked for the first round, and then I was picked for the second round. And I never forget getting that Xbox Live kit, the T-shirt, the headset that always broke, and then the disc that had NFL Fever and Revolt. NFL Fever didn't really work well for me, but Revolt was a lot of fun. I mean, I just remember playing Revolt up till the early morning hours and just having a blast. And remember the first time hearing somebody on the other end, and you could hear him loud and clear, and it was like, can you hear me? Can you hear me? And it was like, oh yeah, this is cool. You can hear, and just chatting. And I still keep in touch with some of the gamers that I met through the Xbox Live beta program, believe it or not. So
that's really cool.
Yeah, it really cool. And I never thought that I would see the day where we wouldn't see the Xbox Live brand logo as part of Xbox. And that's what's happened. And so here we are, Xbox Live released in November 15th of 2002. Here we are, September of this year, actually, it's going to switch. But, here we are, 21 years later, and the Xbox Live is no longer going to exist as a marketing logo brand, if you will. And I'm just thought it's just weird. And what's interesting is Microsoft's marketing on this. You don't see Xbox; it just says Game Pass.
Yo, man, you know what? In so many, like, the between the branding and the console targeting has me feeling some kind of way as a Series X owner, because I feel like I went to Honda and I bought an NSX, and they're also selling a Corolla, and they put a governor on my NSX, and it keeps the power like in line with the Corolla, but just a little bit higher. And what I mean by that is, like, the branding is no longer Xbox, it's Game Pass. And everything seems to heavily skew towards favoring the Series S. And it just, I don't know, like I said, I could be wrong, but it feels like it's Game Pass and Series X is their priority, from marketing down to like market penetration via the hardware. And I honestly wonder if, given the first opportunity, they wouldn't ditch the hardware anyway. because like nothing is Xbox. Well, no, I'm not gonna say nothing is in Xbox anymore, but it's like you just hear less and less of Xbox and more of Game Pass, and they come out with a new Series S, the 1T, what is it, 1 terabyte black Series S. But like, I don't know, like, is it just me, or does it just seem like the Series X seems to be taking a back seat in like mindshare, marketing, anything? It's just kind of just there. Like, I don't.
Well, I think
don't know,
that's.
man.
I think it's clear Game Pass is the focal point now.
If they could just be Game Pass, I think they would do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's Game Pass. I mean, that's it's. I don't even think the focal point is Xbox, the console platform, as much as it is the subscription service.
Yeah.
And it's so and if you look at the marketing, it has the Xbox logo, but it says Game Pass, and that could be it could be to maybe streamline that logo instead of saying Xbox Game Pass, but it is just Game Pass.
Yeah.
But it's not Game Pass Core, which is what's replacing Xbox Live Gold subscription. And with the Xbox Live Gold subscription, like the one thing that you'd get like 2 free games a month. The Core is giving you $10.
Yeah, technically they were games, but yeah.
Yeah, the Core it's for $10. It gives you online console multiplayer, catalog of 25 high quality games on the console, but it's only 25 games. You're losing the 2 games a month, and you get like member deals and discounts. The Game Pass console, which is $1 more, is hundreds of high quality games on the console, new games on day one, member deals and discounts, and then there's the PC one, which is $9. I tell you, PC. If you're not gaming on PC, you need to. PC gets the best deals. Look at PC Game Pass right now, $9.99, hundreds of high quality games on PC, new games on day one, member deals and discounts, and EA Play membership.
Yeah.
So you're getting more at $10 a month on PC than you are on the $10 tier for the console.
Yeah. It's absolutely true. I mean, I've been looking at the Game Pass console, and I just remember looking at it, and I'm like, I refuse to. Well, one, I don't need it. I don't really need it anyway. But I was like, I refuse to pay for Ultimate because I don't need Game Pass for PC, and I don't need cloud gaming. So I'm paying for 2 features that I don't need. And at the time when I wanted to sub, I was just like Gold would have suited me perfectly because I didn't even really care about being in Game Pass. But I was like, if they want to get me in Game Pass, give me Xbox Live Gold, i.e. online, and even if they limited my access to how many games I could get in Game Pass. And then they come out with Core, which it's not a swing and a miss, but it's kind of like a swing and a punt almost. It's like a punt almost. You know what I mean? Like if they could have raised the price of Game Pass console, maybe $1 or $2. Like just put it somewhere in between PC and Ultimate, and then just put the online with that, and then just save this whole Core thing.
Yeah, or I see that. Yeah,
I don't know, but I just feel like Game Pass without online doesn't make any sense to me. But I mean, maybe there are people who want the Game Pass games but don't care about online play or whatever. But it just seems weird to me.
Yeah, and then the last tier is the Ultimate, which is what I have right now. That's hundreds of it's at $17 a month. And by the way, Core is $60 a year if you do it yearly. I should mention that as well. But the Ultimate $17 a month is hundreds of high quality games on console, PC, and cloud. New games on day one, member deals, discounts, and perks. Online console multiplayer, EA Play membership as well. So that to me, if you own both console and PC, that's the one to go with, in my opinion. I think that makes the most sense. But so that's.
Hey, Brad, you see you got a super chat?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I was just about to get that super chat here in just a second. But that's the update to the pricing tier with Game Pass that Microsoft just revealed a couple days ago. Mr. G with the $5 super chat. Thank you, Mr. G. Says Microsoft is slowly but surely killing off the Xbox console. When was the last time you've seen an ad or commercial for the Series X? I haven't seen many commercials for the Series consoles.
No,
I've seen some
either.
for PlayStation, but not a lot for PlayStation either. I typically see more PlayStation stuff when games are coming out, first party stuff.
Well, I'll
Final
say this:
Fantasy
if that's
16,
yeah, and then whenever they have their their custom console, the plates are a whole nother thing. They could have done so much more with those plates. But no, if Xbox is righteously trying to slowly kill off their console, then from my perspective, it's working, because the Series X will be my last console. And even if somehow I haven't built a PC by the time the next generation consoles come out, and if Xbox makes another one, I won't be buying it. I would, I'd just rather build a PC. I know it's not as straightforward as just, popping in a disc or just picking up the controller and playing, but I'll be keeping my gaming simple enough on a PC to where I don't think I'll have that many issues. And plus, games that are optimized poorly and everything, I can always hang back and wait until they fix all of that. But yeah, if they're trying to, get people off of console over time, it's definitely working, because it's working on me.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of pushed me over the edge, and it's kind of why I went PC. But again, if I always tell gamers, if you have the means to do it, go PC. It's not as challenging as it used to be. It's a little more streamlined, the PC experience.
Yeah.
There's issues, driver issues at times, but not the way it used to be. It used to be a little more challenging. So,
Yeah.
So Ramon, I want to go to Hollywood here because, as you know, the SAG-AFTRA union is actually on strike right now. So a lot of I mentioned this. I think I mentioned this earlier in the show, but the SAG-AFTRA includes actors in films, TV shows, video game performers, radio presenters, models, and YouTube influencers. So the union has around 160,000 members. And so I saw Fran Drescher actually give a scathing, I guess, rebuttal to Hollywood.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so the last major agreement that the union signed was back in 2020, and according, this is reporting by The Guardian. According to the reporting by The Guardian, that was immediately undermined by COVID. The agreement was actually due to expire on June 30th, hence the start of these negotiations. But one of the main sticking points, according to this article, appears to be residuals. And these are payments that performers receive for repeat showings of films and or TV shows. So Ramon, so basically, like if you're on a TV show and there's reruns, you get residuals from that show airing then as a performer. Is that, I want to make sure I'm not, or is it a little more complex than that?
Well, it's correct, but it's a little bit, it can be a little bit different depending on, where the actor is from and filming. And what I mean by that is this. So I'm not 100% on how SAG actors get paid. I know primarily how they get paid, but there are some little small details that I don't know, primarily because I'm SAG eligible, but I'm not in SAG. I'm in the Canadian union, which is UBCP, and ACTRA, ACTRA. So that's our union up here. The way it works up here, it's mostly like SAG, but it's a little bit, it might be a little bit different. I don't know 100%, but basically, so I'll use the first show I was ever on. I'll use that as an example. So my first ever acting job was on Supernatural. and I had 2 days on it, and so I got. So there's what's called scale, and scale is like the union has a scale amount. They have an amount, a set amount that actors get paid. Now the household names don't get paid scale. They get paid what the price that they command, and you either pay it or you don't get the actor. So that's, but for the rest of us, we make scale. So I got paid scale, and then I got paid what's called a buyout. Basically, what that is for the first, and it works the same in publishing actually too, kind of. So for the first, I think it's like 3 years, you don't get any residuals. Instead, you get a lump sum up front for your film date. So like, let's just say my scale is $500 for the day, and then I get a 200% buyout. So it's basically my scale fee plus 200% of that as a buyout of my residuals for 3 years. After that 3 years elapses, if the show is still airing, then I start to get residuals. The crazy part is actors way back in the day, they got residuals that accumulated that they could live off of. Today we don't, like, that's just like, man, it's like a freaking dream, because my first residual check 3 years, I think it was 3 years after I was on Supernatural, was 300, what was it, I think it was like $367 or something like that. It was like mid 300s, right? The subsequent years, it was like, 340, and then it was like 320, and then it was like 280, and then it went down to like, 255. And then my most recent check from Supernatural, I think, was like I'm not even sure if it was $100. It might have been like I don't know, like 80 something dollars or something like that. And then I think I got one from iZombie, I think, and that one was like, I think that one was like $100 something. Like the residuals that I just starting to get for shows that are still airing is literally like, not quite a car payment. You know what I mean? So like, the residuals are way smaller than they used to be.
Okay.
And like, you would have to have been on a ton of shows to accumulate enough residuals to live off of. And UBCP actors up here, and I know there's a difference in currency, and that's probably why we actually, in a lot of instances, get paid more than SAG actors. And that might be because of the exchange rate, so, for up here, we get paid more in how the dollars look versus what a SAG actor would get paid.
Okay.
So yeah, there's little differences. Like we aren't on strike up here, but we, obviously we stand with SAG. So we still are filming Canadian only productions up here. Like I actually just had an audition that I put on tape today before I came on. And it's a Canadian only show. So and there's a whole different thing going on with that. But there's no American actors, there's no American shows, because like, a lot of the shows like Arrow, The Flash, which I think is already done, Smallville, Battlestar Galactica, stuff like that. That all that stuff films up here. Like tons of stuff films up here. But all that's on hiatus. So it's literally crickets right now.
Gotcha. Okay. So no, I appreciate you kind of explaining how the residuals work. One of the things too, Ramon, that the actors are demanding is or actually one of the issues is of who owns an actor's likeness if it's reproduced by AI. And there's a scene in the latest Flash where I think they reproduce Christopher Reeve's likeness as Superman via AI, and
not just him, the black and white Superman too.
Yeah, exactly. That Superman,
Adam West Batman.
Adam West Batman was there, and I'm like, oh my! It looks just like the black and white Superman, because I remember watching that when as a kid. Like that same. Looks exactly like that actor.
Yeah. It's terrifying.
And so that look, if you've been listening to BRAP for a while, I have had expressed concerns about AI. I think AI as a tool that we use to maybe enhance the work we do. I think maybe it's a good idea. But I think it potentially be a good idea. I have concerns with stuff like this, using one's likeness, using one's voice. Like I'm concerned that AI will be used to do bad things. There's some concerns that I've heard raised with that AI. You could use an AI generated voice where you could use to scam, family members, not you personally, but someone else using your likeness, your voice via AI could, use that as a way to kind of scam or infiltrate your family to scam them. But I think that's a fair conversation though. Like if you're using my likeness via AI, like I should probably be receiving some kind of residual because you're using my likeness.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, well, I saw two things that terrified me because I knew we were going to get to this point, I knew we were going to get to this point. Number one was when I saw General Tarkin in Rogue One. When I saw that, I was like, holy shit, okay, we're going to have some problems. The second was when the deep fake GIFs started showing up, and everybody was having fun with it because it's showing people doing the little head bobbing and singing and this and that. And I'm like, I'm looking at this stuff and I'm just like, this shit isn't funny, right? Like people are having, joking and they're doing this, and I'm like, because like I don't expect people to know, so it's like I'm not upset with them, but I'm looking at this stuff and I'm like, this is freaking terrifying. Like I hate this, right? And then like my brother actually sent me this thing, and I guess if I wasn't in the industry, maybe I'd think it was funny, but it was it the Wizard of Oz? I think it was. And basically they had used whatever tech they used, and they put Arnold Schwarzenegger's head and blended it to her body, and the song she was singing was in his voice, and it sounded like it was him singing, and it looked like it was him singing with the bonnet on his head and the dress and everything. And I'm looking at this, and my brother was like, oh yeah, I thought it was funny. It's like, I wasn't upset with him because he doesn't know, like, he doesn't know what this represents. But I'm looking at this and I'm like, this is gross. And the thing is I would not be against AI if human beings were more responsible. But the problem is we have these powerful tools, and the people who access these powerful tools are not morally developed enough and responsible enough to implement them properly. And that's the biggest reason. I mean, the money is a smaller part of it. Yes, we need to be paid more. And if you see what these CEOs make, like, it's just gross. But the AI is the big thing because, like, among some of my friends, we have a saying: if they can get away with not paying you, they won't pay you. And that's like, I'm being literal. Like, if they could find a way to have you work a day on set and not pay you for it, they would do it. Like, I have never in my life seen as much shady stuff as in the film industry. It's like, it's mind-blowing. So they absolutely want to scan and record our likeness, our voice, and everything, and then use us without paying us. They actually had that in one of the as one of the contract items. Like, they came back to the union saying, we have a what did they call it? Like a breakthrough or revolutionary or something in the contract, and then they hand it over, and it was like, yeah, for background performers, they get paid for 1 day of work, and then they scan their likeness, and then they can use it in perpetuity, infinitely. So they can, basically what they want to do is pay a bunch of background performers that are on set for a day, pay them 1 day, and then keep their images and everything just in a database and use them over and over and over and over again, and just never hire another background performer again. And if you think that they wouldn't do that to actors, absolutely. Well, I mean, it's, you can see it happening now, So yeah, we're at a tipping point right now. The business has changed, but the contracts have not, and it's insane. And streaming has killed residuals.
Well, I was going to bring that up too, because that is kind of, I think, one of the points of contention here too, where, they're demanding, SAG is negotiators are demanding residuals based on viewership levels on streaming services. What they're saying, this is according to The Guardian, what they're saying is that these studios, or these streamers, these streaming studios or services like Netflix, Amazon, and Disney, aren't willing to share the information with them, aren't willing to share the viewership levels on these streaming platforms. To your point, yeah, go ahead, Ramon.
No, I'm sorry. I was just gonna say that's just the tip of the iceberg. There, and I'll let you finish talking. But on the negotiations, where it says what the union is asking for, and then on the other side of the document, it'll say either rejected, or it'll have text in there saying, what the studio's response is, the industry's response is. One of them was paying on time. Literally, the studio paying on time. What did it say on the other side of the sheet? It said rejected. Although they basically admitted they don't pay on time, but they don't intend to pay on time, and that the late fee penalties that the union charges are not a deterrent for that. So they literally came out and admitted that they don't pay on time, and they have no intention to pay on time, and that there is no penalty that will make them pay on time. These are the kind of people that we're dealing with, dude.
Yeah, that's. Hey, what's up,
Ramon,
Logic?
Hey, what's up? So, Ramon, one question I want to ask you is, so, when it comes to things like this, I mean, you generally have two options. Either the industry can regulate itself, or the industry can be regulated. Do you think that there's any hope that specifically the injection of AI, and it applies to, voice actors in video games and yada, yada, yada. Do you think that there's any hope that the industries will work that out to the point where people are still interested in going into those lines of work?
That's actually a really good question, and it's a tough answer. With the individuals who are at the head of all these studios, and I do mean all of them. Well, I mean, I can't speak to all of them because I haven't worked on, projects with all of them, but the individuals who lead the studios that I have personal experience with, I would say that it's very likely not a possibility to self-regulate. These people literally do not want to pay you. They are not interested in your safety. They're not interested in your livelihood or well-being. They're interested in how much can we get out of you and how much can we make. Like, it's kind of hard to wrap your mind around, but like, I have had people lie straight to my face about something that I was entitled to, saying that I would get it, and then as far as payment, and then I get my check and that payment isn't there, and I go through my agent trying to get it fixed, and they flat out just lie and deny it. And because I had no proof, I had no recourse. So like, you're talking about an industry that has people like not even at the very top. This wasn't even at the top. This was just like, something called meal penalty. Basically, when you work past your lunch hour and then you get paid in 5-minute increments a certain dollar amount until you get lunch. And basically, I was cheated out of about $300 worth of meal penalty, where the lady's like, yep, it looks like you got a really big meal penalty right here. And then when my check didn't reflect it, and my agent contacts them, they're like, no, like, why didn't he eat lunch? Everybody else ate lunch. It was because I was sitting in the green room waiting for my scene, and they forgot about me. So self-regulation, when you have CEOs, these CEOs making $37 million a year, 150 million dollars a year, yada yada yada, saying that we have unrealistic expectations. Yeah, I just I struggle to see a world where that could happen.
Yeah, and that's. And let me ask you something else, Ramon. Is that? I'm assuming there's been part of that could be. Do you think part of that is because of the consolidation in the entertainment industry?
That is a very real thing, because the fewer studios there are, the more power they hold. I mean, that's just the nature of it. And because of it's like well, who are you going to work for? And I think in an idealistic world, we would turn and start working more with indies, but that is a whole different challenge. That's a whole other inside the industry challenge with doing that, which comes down to pay and everything, and not just actor pay but agent pay, and how agents don't even consider indies. But yeah, like the more they consolidate, the less choice there is, the fewer studios you're working for, and you end up dealing with the same people.
That's I mean, and that's we talk about consolidation. The industry is less choice. I mean, there's impact not just to consumers, but to the people that are involved in making and starring in these productions. One thing that's kind of interesting, Ramon, that's kind of, as I've been reading, as you've been talking, this article, The Guardian, the article states that streaming hasn't just killed the mid-budget movie or the linear TV series. It's also changed the way films and shows are presented to their audience and extract money from them in return. Streamers make money from subscribers, and the shows and films are essentially promos for the subscriptions. Plus, they are just up there permanently with no repeats, as we would understand them, which makes it hard for traditional means of assessing their value in terms of paying people for them.
Yeah.
Would you say that's? Go ahead.
No, that's absolutely right. It's absolutely right, because there's no such thing as if a show still airs with streaming, because it's always there. Like take Seinfeld for an example. Those old blurry episodes with the mama jeans and the sweaters and
on
the
Netflix.
Still on network TV. They still.
Oh yeah, I've been watching on Netflix, but yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but they still show on network TV, so they're still getting nice residuals from that. They're still getting residuals from that. They're still getting paid. But when you have shows that okay, for example, The Witcher. Like, I don't know what Henry Cavill's contract is, or anybody else who's on the show's contract is, but I seriously doubt they're getting residuals, because, or residual for what? It's always there. The show is always there, and people can watch it a la carte whenever they want, whether an episode a day or all the episodes in a day. So it's once again, it comes back to what the heads of the union, the heads of the Writers Guild Association and SAG, Screen Actors Guild, have been saying is the business model has changed, but the contracts and the terms have not. And it's insane, because they want to stick to the status quo, but it's like the status quo barely exists anymore. They want to keep us on these same contracts and on these same pay scales, but it doesn't work the same way. And just to veer off a little bit, let's going back to something earlier when I was talking about how things film up here. So when an actor in LA books a major role on a show that films in, we'll use Vancouver as an example, because it happens there a lot. So that actor is paid, aside from their daily amount that they're paid for every day that they're on set, they get paid a lump sum of I think it's roughly between $4,000 to $6,000, I think, for them to be up here because they have to live up here for every, for the time that they're doing the work. Now, that's a one-time fee. They don't get that every season. They don't get that every month. They get that one time. They have to find lodging. They have to find transportation, their meals, everything. They pay for all of that. So now you have rent or a mortgage and a car note in LA. You now have rent and, I don't know, a rental car or public transit up here in Vancouver. And if you have a family, you're splitting your income to combine with your partner's income if they work. And so now you have, in some ways, double the expenses, but your income has not doubled. But our pay demands are unrealistic.
Wow.
Yeah, dude, there's just layers. There's so many layers to this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's I just want to read some additional things in the article here. They're saying that the argument over residuals made all the harder by the streamers' reluctance to reveal how many people are watching these shows. As shows and films on streaming platforms become ever larger and more widely watched, then the potential residuals become even more significant. Become an ever more significant amount. So it's interesting that according to this article, that the streaming platforms aren't sharing that information.
Nope.
And
of course, they're not going to share it.
Well, yeah, I mean, but I guess the other question I have, because how does this potentially impact? Do you think, because part of the folks that are part of this union are actually video game performers. What kind of impact do you think this might have on the individuals who are performers in the video game industry?
It all exists in an adjacency. There's little differences, of course, but primarily with a video game, you go in, you do the work, and that's pretty much it. Like, there's no, as far as I'm aware, there are no residuals for video games. So, and if you remember, sometime way back in GTA 4, I believe it was, the lead in that game got paid a certain amount, and I can't remember what the controversy was, but basically he kind of got the shaft because he got paid, I think, whatever he got paid, but then the game went on to make like buckets of money, of course. It wasn't GTA 5 money, of course, but GTA 4 money. And at the time, the union, I don't think they had like the same types of contracts for video games at that time, not like now. But but with video game work though, you go in, if it's just voice acting, you go in and you record all of your all of the reams of dialogue and lines that you have, and then you're paid your fee, and then you go on about your way. And if it's motion capture, same thing. You go in and you record your scenes, you do the acting from the performance capture, and then you go on about your business. So it's a little different. There's no residuals with video games, nor would I really think that would be expected, because it's kind of a different thing. Like, video games, once it's made, and if there's multiple seasons, then yeah, if those actors are in those seasons, then they bring those actors back and they're paid for that work again. But it's just, it's a slightly different, it's a different medium, so it doesn't kind of scale the same way. But the AI is definitely something that will be on the horizon as well. That that all needs to be covered. We need to be talking about that with video games now, because in a lot of ways that could be even worse, because it's all games are graphics, CGI, all of the things that go into creating video games revolves around a digital likeness and of the recording of a voice and whatnot, right? So
yeah, interesting. Yeah, that I appreciate that insight. That's why I wanted to have you on too, because this has been this has kind of been a big news item, and it's something I've been following. And obviously there's some impact here, maybe potentially to the gaming industry or those that are acting in the gaming industry. This might be a question for you, Ramon, but Ryan says, BRAP, how does it work at cons and other events? Actors can just make money from their likeness, such as signing photos? He's asking that question.
Well, with regard to Comic Cons and everything, right now there are terms like under certain capacity actors can do Comic Cons, but under the union guidelines, and they actually emailed what these guidelines are. I haven't had a chance to go through all of them in depth, specifically because I don't have any cons coming up anyway. But the little bit I've read, it's possible to still do shows, but like you can't. There's no promoting of work that you may have already done. And there's some other stipulations that you have to kind of keep in line with. A lot of actors have chosen to forego doing Comic Cons right now, which it just kind of keeps you out of the hot water in general. I see somebody in the chat said Tony Todd is refusing to do a Comic Con because of the strike. I'm not sure if it's refusing to or if it's because of the SAG guidelines or not. But yeah, it's definitely not straightforward with doing those types of shows. And in terms of your likeness, for signing photos and stuff, I don't know if that really falls into something like that. You're literally like, whether you're using your own headshots that you paid to have made for when you are submitted for auditions, or if you're taking still shots from a show that you were on and signing and selling those. That's, it's part of your work that you've done. And I don't think it really falls into that same type of bag.
No, I appreciate that insight, Ramon. Logic, did you have any other thoughts, questions for Ramon on the Hollywood actor strike?
I did have one question about voice acting in video games, Ramon. How does it work with remakes and remasters? So, for instance, Bethesda has pumped out Skyrim 99 bajillion times on 154 different platforms, right? And those voice actors theoretically got paid like the first time that they recorded, but their works have been. And on E2KG, we covered a news story where, part of an ongoing controversy right now is that modders are using. Did you guys cover this already before, BRAP?
What's that?
That in Skyrim, modders are using, previous voice actor assets. And
no, I didn't get to that. I was going to, but go ahead. Yeah, that's a great.
Yeah, and they're utilizing AI to take the likeness of those voice actors' voices and have them and create, not safe for work dialogue, and creating pornographic material, right, in Skyrim mods. But for the company itself, is there anything that happens for voice actors or anybody? Even people who have done, mocap or facial capture, right? When their actual, likenesses are actually used, I can't remember the guy who unfortunately, sadly, just passed away, who was Zavala in Destiny 2 and was in the John Wick movies, but Is it in his actual? It's
Lance Riddick,
yeah. His actual facial likeness is the characterization in Horizon Forbidden West, right?
Yes.
So, they did DLC for that, right? So, is any of that extension of those or regurgitation, recycling of that content resulted in anything for the voice actors and facial actors?
From my limited knowledge on that, you're paid on the day, like you're paid for the work that you've done. So like with the DLC and everything, they brought him back into the studio and he performed. It's really very, very similar to film acting. The only difference is everything is like a green screen, and then you have all of the the skin tight suit with the dots and the what do you call it, the microphones attached to the head and everything like that. But otherwise it's very similar to a screen performance. As far as like remakes and remasters, I can't say that I know. I don't know 100%. I don't know for an absolute fact, but I believe if it's the same performance on all, like if it's basically the performance that you already did and nothing's changed about it, then I don't think that the actor is compensated for that, because they're basically polishing up the work that was already done. In the case of a remake, like say for instance, The Last of Us 2, if I'm not mistaken, they brought the actors back in to do some work, but it's that I don't know. Remakes in particular, I don't know, and that's either A, murky water, or B, it's I just don't know, because I have barely gotten my toe in the door with voice acting. Very hard to get into, way harder to get into than film. That doesn't answer your question though. But like with the Skyrim thing, I don't think they're paid again. But with a remake, I don't know.
Gotcha. And Gregor Von Deuben chat mentions, we actually just heard Lance Reddick's last voice lines in Destiny a few weeks ago, so it'll be interesting what they do with the word for it. And I'm not saying that this is what you're saying, Gregor Von Deuben, but just to differentiate, like, so today, or even in years past, right? We always have the thing where, first of all, I mean, the amount of film that winds up in a movie in comparison to the amount of film that is shot is a depending on the director, often will be like a significant subset of like the total amount of shoots that were done. Like so much winds up on the cutting room floor. And same thing so we have these occasions where there's so much content left over from editing that content is recycled or repurposed or reused to create additional extended content. And in that case, as far as I understand, there's whether or not the pay was fair or not, the performer was paid for that, right? They spent 5 days on set, right? Shooting a certain amount of film. 1 day's worth of that film winds up actually in the movie. But as far as I understand, like the current structures, they got paid for those 5 days. So, reuse or repurposing of that content, outside of like things that it would create where like if it was used like to create a whole new episode and the actor was only paid for one episode, I mean, but in general, right, that's at least contained within the current framework and system. But I think these other things of like where, there's, so Reddick, my understanding with Reddick was he had previously recorded that material, right, and it was carried forward, or I can't remember who was, I want to say there was another actor where they had previously recorded material that was later used, or maybe it was when Carrie Fisher passed away or something. I'm not certain, but yeah, all these new scenarios are a thing that's going to be interesting to see how they progress and how they go.
It is, because it has the potential to get really kind of cloudy, because I could go in and do a performance just like you said. Like I can record reams and reams of dialogue, and let's say I record 300 lines and they only use 180, right? Well, they have the remainder of all those lines just sitting there, and they could possibly take all of that and put it in a different game or put it in DLC, right? I've been paid for the work that I did, and like I wouldn't, like, me personally, my personal opinion, I would not be looking for compensation if they took that extra work and put it in DLC or put it in a different game or something like that, because that's work that I did. Like I came in, I rendered the service, I was paid for that service, and they use it however they want. It's not like it's different if I went in, I rendered the service, they recorded my voice, and then they used AI to reproduce my voice and then create entirely new dialogue with my voice that I didn't perform. That I would have a problem with. But if I already, gave them, if I already recorded all those lines, they're free to use that work in, spread it across whatever they want, because I've already rendered the service and been paid, and they have the product that I supplied them with.
Sorry, I'm just reading the chat here.
Yeah.
Someone said, I think Darth Vader's voice is fully computer made now. Is that true?
I don't
know.
I mean,
I thought. I know what. Who's
James
the
Earl
actor?
Jones is still around.
He's still alive. He's
like,
still alive. So
I don't know why they wouldn't use him.
Yeah, it's interesting. I need to go back and read. I want to say maybe James. So there are, and this will be interesting to see. There are these cottage companies that are being set up where some actors are actually voluntarily like going and recording voice tracks specifically for the purposes of having them replicated or regenerated, right? Utilizing AI, and then where their voice likenesses are then an IP asset, right, to be sold. What'll be super interesting as we go down the road here in AI litigation, AI legislation, is it would seem to me that, if you were going to do that, we should have a legal framework that allows actors to copyright that, right?
100%.
Yeah. So, yeah, I want to say James Earl Jones has there's him and one other actor who at least is known to have kind of, done that, who has a like very recognizable voice. But like if you're a James Earl Jones or a Morgan Freeman, like it seems like maybe that's a route you'd go, right, to get ahead of the people who are going to do it otherwise, like illegally, and at least that way you're in position to be able to kind of go after those people.
So you're saying to copyright your voice, then? Is that what?
Yeah,
I hear that correctly?
I don't think we have the legal. I don't think we have that legal framework in place now. That will be something that, right, as these things rise. I mean, clearly, the FTC and other people are going to have to get involved or Congress are going to have to go to put that in place. But there are companies that are being stood up.
Money.
Yeah, who would imagine that the rogue agent would be looking to protect the rights of workers?
I mean, and imagine trying to create new legislation because of the changes in the way we consume media, right? But anyhow.
Yeah, no, it's. And that's kind of. Really, the point where I'm really driving at, right? When you look at this scenario now, and you look at what is going on now with streaming and like the impact that Ramon has mentioned on residuals, my personal feeling is this is what happens when we have revolutionary changes in technology that alter how content is created and how consumers then consume it, but the union structure, the labor structure, the contractual structure of the underlying industry and the business have not shifted, right, to catch up to it. They are still utilizing old paradigms to regulate this stuff. Some of this is.
I'm sorry. Hey, old paradigms. Okay.
Some of this, and I was reading, Ramon, you were talking about the lead voice actor for GTA 4, and that controversy was. That guy went in and he got paid $100K, right? For that performance. But then Rockstar went on to sell GTA 4, for billions of dollars over and over and over again to repackage it right in the collection and all this stuff. And, and that person got paid that one thing. And one of his comments was like, hey, some of this is on the union because they haven't put in the collective bargaining framework, right, protections and things for us to prevent companies from being allowed to do things like this.
And that was one of those unfortunate things where it's like you don't know until you know. You know what I mean? Like, I think the union not knowing not knowing how the gaming industry works probably didn't even think that that would be a reality. So yeah, it was definitely on the union, and I think, at least I like to hope they learned from that, and that's why we're kind of where we are right now. And something else, while I just throwing some industry stuff in here, circling back around to pay structures. So a lot of people, like, it's actually been kind of heartening because the majority of people have been supportive of this. And there's some people who are like, man, I wish I get paid what actors get paid, blah 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 blah. And it's like, okay, so let's just go ahead and move the 1% off the table. Your Pedro Pascal's, your stars, like, Henry Cavill. Let's move them off the table and go to 99% of the rest of us. So using myself as an example. So I was on a show and I had 6 days on it. Those 6 days I made $11,000. Sounds like a lot, for 6 days of work. That's, it's pretty nice. I worked again. The next time I worked was about a month later. I had 1 day on a set and I made $3,000. The next time I worked was about 9 months later. So not earning residuals, or having, residuals very, 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 very low, that suddenly that $14,000 that I made doesn't sound like a lot when it's stretched across 9-10 months. You know what I mean? So like, these are the kind of things that people are talking about, because most actors don't work a lot. And like, in my best year, I booked 6 jobs, my best year. And there are actors who are in class every week for months and years on end that have not booked a single job for like a year and a half, 2 years. You know what I mean? So like, we make a lot of money on the day, but it's not consistent. The average actor makes way less than, people working regular jobs. And we're in class and we're constantly honing our craft, and we're foregoing, sometimes, in some cases, actors forego going on vacations because they are being considered for a role and they don't want to be out of the country or out of town, and then they get passed over for somebody else because they can't get back in time. There's a lot of sacrifice and there's a lot of hard work, and they don't want to pay us. I don't mean to like beat a dead horse, but there's just so much that goes into this that's not sitting around a pool and collecting a fat check for going in and playing pretend. And then don't even get me started on what it takes out of you physically.
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, those are great points. I had this conversation with one of my kids tonight because this is a path that they're looking at going down, and kind of like BRAP, I've been reading a lot. It's been coming out of the current strikes, and and back me up, Ramon. But you mentioned you booked 6 jobs, and I was reading an article that for SAG-AFTRA, I think that's like the minimum number of jobs that you have to book. It's like job. I think it's a number of jobs and $25K or something like that. That's a minimum that you have to book in order to qualify for like the health insurance that the union offers or something like that.
26,000, is like the minimum.
Yeah,
and there's a certain number of credits. Like up here, it goes by credits. It used to be 6 credits, but they lowered it to 3. So once you have 3 credits, then you qualify to join the union. SAG is a little bit different, but it's primarily the same.
Yeah, so we have, and the reason I want to draw these things out is because
I'm sorry, real quick. I want to read the quote here about what you're discussing. And actually, to your point, Ramon, the 1%. I mean, a lot of the big name Hollywood actors are speaking out and backing this.
Absolutely.
Tom Cruise being one of them.
Their voices. Yeah, we need that badly. Yeah.
Yeah, Matt Damon. So it's $26,000 to qualify for health coverage. Is what that you have to, I guess, make or whatever to get that. So that's
It's no easy feat.
Yeah, no, exactly. But you know what's interesting though, like, and I think about these streaming services. I mean, weren't they making a ton of money during COVID, like, because everyone was at home? I mean, like, is that something that's been brought up or discussed? Like, I mean, I know Disney mentioned that they're anticipating losses in their streaming services, but I mean, has that been part of the discussion at all about, you know, the money that these studios or these streaming services earned during COVID? Is that even part of the conversation?
Nah, I'm not. If it is, I'm not aware of it.
Okay, I'm just wondering, but
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Ham. Go ahead, man. I know you were.
No. I mean, I think my overall point was to draw the analogy to what we see going on in the gaming discussion, right? That you know, for instance, for the movie industries, and we've had these things before, right? Where where I've mentioned, I think even on this show, how people don't understand how movies are put together, and people don't understand how they're financed, and they don't understand how the money moves around, and therefore they don't understand like why certain things happen, like why was Scarlett Johansson, right, cast in a role that maybe arguably should have gone to an Asian person, right, to make Ghost in the Shell. And part of the reason is because how movie deals are put together, and how so many multiple parties are part of getting a movie made. And for some of them, that movie doesn't get made if Scarlett Johansson isn't cast. And that's not to say that makes it right, but I'm saying that's part of the dynamic, right? And not everyone understands that. And here we have this thing where there's an impression that I think at least Americans have largely of what actors go through or what their lives are like, and it's largely formulated off of, like Ramon mentioned, and like that article mentions, like the top 1% that we get exposed to. And there are other things in that article that talk about this is how you guys think actors' lives are, but this is how they actually are, right? We actually, like, we're not all waiting tables, right, and carpenters, right? A lot of us we have to build businesses because we have to have means of employment that are incredibly flexible, right? That allow us to, go out and go to an audition on a moment's notice, right? Like, you can't necessarily do that when some other manager is making you into a rigid schedule, right? You're gonna miss a few shifts, right, to make an audition, and then, right, they're gonna find somebody else to do that work. So there's just a lot of things, and again, the reason I draw this analogy for a gaming show is we also have the same thing in the gaming discussion, right, where there are a lot of assumptions and a lot of perceptions of how video games are put together, why decisions are made, and often they are very far from reality, and in many cases they're not, because the information's not out there. And a lot of times it's not because the information isn't out there, but because people don't read it, right? Because people are focused on like the sensational stuff and the console war stuff, and I'm like, no, there's actually a ton of information, and like you don't, a lot of that information is put in reputable, right, publishing sites, not all NeoGAF and Reset Era.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah.
And Logic just said something. You just nailed something on the head. And I also want to get back around to when you were talking about one of your children. I was thinking about film, but employment. So I for a long time was a server bartender until it was a choice of either continue on and end up in jail or find another job, because it was driving me crazy. And then I worked for an airline, and it was relatively flexible. Basically, if I needed a day off, I find somebody to cover my shift, or I trade shifts with them. Not ideal, but it was doable. And juggling that, there's a level of stress that goes with it. Right now, I work in a medical supplies warehouse. I drive a powered pallet jack, which basically is one of those things where, it has the forks attached to it, and you back it into a wooden or rubber skid, and you press the button and it lifts it up, and then you just drag it wherever you have to go. And a forklift. I also operate a forklift. Why am I saying all this? This particular job is casual. It always has hours available, but it's casual. There are plenty of other jobs that I could have taken that pay more, but this particular job pays enough, enough, but it has the flexibility of me being casual, so that, I pick up shifts in advance or I pick up shifts on the day. So like when COVID happened and the industry came to a standstill, I picked up 40 hours of shifts a week. I'm lucky enough to have a job. So I picked up 40 hours a week. When the industry came back, I went back to pre-booking weekends, but I kept my weekdays on the day. So like, basically I get a call, I get a text, or I get an email, there's a shift available, a morning shift, 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then I can, say yes and punch in the code, or I can ignore it. And then my agent will send me an audition. Hey, can you do this audition? The turnaround is really quick. We need it by like 8 a.m. Okay, cool. Well, then I just don't take a shift that day. Or if I book a job, and if I'm scheduled to work, I'm just going to call in sick. Otherwise, I just won't take the job. These are the kind of things that, are part of your reality when you're trying to, build in a career in the entertainment industry. There's no rhyme or reason to it. There's no formula that you can follow that will lead to success. It's literally do the work and keep doing the work. And there's a degree of luck involved. Circling around to when you said one of your kids was thinking about being an actor. I tell people this, whether it's in publishing or in acting. One of the questions I ask is there any other profession that you could see yourself doing that makes a lot of money that you would be happy doing? If that person answers yes, I immediately tell them to do that. The only person I would recommend the entertainment industry for is a person that doesn't choose it chooses you. No one, in my opinion, no one in their right mind would choose to go for this. Like if I wasn't insane, I would not be an actor and an author. You want to talk about getting a double dose of like submitting a manuscript. I had one book that I was going to try to get traditionally published, and editors liked it, agents liked it, everything is moving forward, and then I just get ghosted. That same week, I nearly booked a job on the last Star Trek movie that went to the theater. But they went a different direction. They say that sometimes. They're like, yeah, they went a different way. They decided they needed skinny actors because of the suits and everything and yada, 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 yada. So it's like in 1 week, sometimes I can get a double dose of like, something like that. So you have to compartmentalize it, and you have to be able to put it away. Otherwise, you're on an emotional roller coaster. Like you walk in, you do your audition, and you leave everything in the room. You leave your best performance in the room. You leave your memory of the audition in the room, and you don't think about it again, because it's, roughly, I believe it's about 23 people have to agree that you're that person in order for you to book a job. That's roughly about how many people have to all agree that you're that guy or you're that girl, that lady.
Wow.
Well, it's kind of funny. It's anonymous. I was telling BRAP today, I have, depending on what company I work at, and depending on what programs I have in my portfolio, I have occasion to interview anywhere from, dozens to hundreds of, kids coming out as developers out of college. And over the last couple of years, I've gone from, when I ask the question, what other fields are you looking at going into? What other jobs kind of have your interest? And a lot of these are interns, and it's conversations at the point of interviewing for them to come into an internship, or some of the mentoring and counseling sessions that I have when they're at my company for an internship. And they say, yeah, I'm thinking about going into game development, and I've gone from issuing, a cautionary tale, right, about that consideration, and think about your total earning potential over the lifetime of your career, and to where now this year I'm saying, that now it's a much firmer recommendation that, unless, like, kind of like you're saying, like, unless there's a hyper-specific need or desire that you want to do that work because you just can't see yourself doing anything else, it's a much bigger red flag that I throw up about, like, take consideration over what your total earning potential is going to be over the entire lifetime of your career, right? You're not making a decision for, for the next 2 years, you're putting your foot on a path, and the question is how is that going to impact, 30, 40, 50-year career?
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And I, in a slightly broader sense, I tell people that I'm like, are you like, there's the commitment to it versus the payoff. Like, of course there's a saying, the only people who fail are the ones that quit. But at the same time, like, I know people who have been in the industry a long time and they're still grinding. I'm a relative, like, I won't say I'm a baby in the industry anymore. I've been in the industry almost 11 or roughly around 11 years, which is still not a lot in terms of the industry. But like, dude, like, seriously, like, you're constantly trying to hone your craft, and there's lots of sacrifices and lots of stress and lots of juggling and lots of balancing things, and then trying to have a life. And then, if you're trying to have a family, or if you have, in my case, it's just me and my wife. But like, it's also can be feast or famine, like, 1 year when I made, like, from my, I make a decent amount of money, which is still not a lot of money. I made, like, around 56,000, which is not a lot of money, but it was more than I had ever made, in the industry. And then the very next year I only made 15. You know what I mean? So it's like, you're going to have those ups and downs. If you're lucky enough to become established, the downs may become less frequent, but even then, okay, an example, a good friend of mine now, Sean McGuire. Like, if you don't know his name, he was Robin Hood in Once Upon a Time, and he was like the lead guy in Meet the Spartans, that spoof on 300. If you remember that way back, he's done like tons of stuff. He was also the event organizer in Forza Horizon 3, I think it was. Like, he's done tons of stuff. Like, he's the same age as me, but he's been acting since he was a kid. And I was talking to him one day about it, and he's like, man, he's like, you literally can't know. He's like, when I was booking consistently, he was like, I was making really good money, I was doing really well, and he was like, okay, it seems like this is what it's going to be. And he was like, the next year he didn't book anything, and then year after that, like, maybe one job. Like, literally went through, like, from feast to famine in the course of a year. And then even from the casting side of it, casting directors can love you to death, and then they won't see you for like 2 years. I had the people who cast me for Supernatural, they were seeing me constantly. So I was like, and I had booked, like, a good number of jobs with them, which makes them look good too. And then they just stopped seeing me. And they hadn't brought me in for like almost 3 years. Then they brought me in a few times, and then they didn't see me again for like another 2 years. And with self-taping, ever since COVID, the industry has gone to self-taping now, and they like it more because it's easier for them. But, for actors like myself, it's a little harder because you don't have the direction to go off of. And I answered her question in the chat. Part of the reason why I like going in the room, even though it's less convenient, is because I can make a decision on a performance, and my performance might be strong, but the decision that I made might not be right. And a casting director, or if the director themselves are in the room, they'll be like, okay, Ramon, that was great, but here, let me give you a little more context on this scene. And they'll give me a little bit of context that will completely change the way I deliver that performance. And so they'll do that and then they'll say, you know what, that was great, let's do something different this time, do it this way. And the reason they're doing that is because they like your performance, but they want to see if you can change your performance on a dime. Because anybody can prepare a baked performance and deliver it because you practiced it a million times. But if the director says, okay, that's good, now give me this, if you can't do that, then it shows that you're still, kind of a novice actor, or you don't have a lot of range. So there's a lot of things like that you don't get with self-taping, that for me is a bit of a disadvantage, where other actors, they thrive in self-tapes. So it just depends on the person. That to say, Logic, you're right. You're sorry, Brad, but yeah, Logic, you're absolutely right. Like, it's a commitment, and it has to be in their DNA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great insight. I certainly, definitely appreciate that, Ramon. And one of the reasons why we wanted to have you on. So, Yeah, no, absolutely. So, it is 11:35, and
Ooh, yeah,
Brap,
East Coast time.
Brap needs to go to bed. But first, I want to give a big shout out to everyone in the live chat. Thank you, one, for hanging out with us this evening. Really appreciate it. And to our guests, Ramon Terrell. Ramon, thank you so much. Really appreciate your insight into the actor strike that's happening here in the U.S. and giving us a lot of insight into acting and how difficult and challenging that can be. Also, great gaming conversation earlier in the show, man. Really appreciate it. If I don't know if you want to be found, but if you do, let everyone know where they can find you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm Ramon __ Terrell on Twitter. I'm hardly on Facebook, but same name Facebook. Basically, if you know my name, you can find me. And yeah, like big time video games. I love video games. You know, I love books, obviously. And yeah, you know, if you want to give me a follow, you know, that's cool. I may or may not follow back. The reason for that is because the agents typically don't like it if you have too many follows and not enough followers, because then like the social media presence plays a part in it as well, and my follow to follower ratio sucks. So if I don't follow you back, it's probably because my agent's like, okay dude, no, just slow down. Like it's some really weird stuff, but you know, again, it falls into the weird life that you have when you do this. But yeah, like, you know, if you ever want to find me on Twitter, talk about games, talk about anything, movies, books, that's where I'm at. And thanks for having me, Brap. It's always a pleasure. And Logic, always a pleasure. Love listening to you guys.
Ramon, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Thank you again for joining us tonight. Thank you for your time. I know there's a time difference between us, so thank you again. Logic, always a pleasure. I don't know if you want to be found. By the way, great show. I can't ever say it. E2KG. Enough to keep going. Great show, by the way. I didn't mention that to you earlier, but yeah, just if anyone's looking for some great gaming conversation around gaming news, definitely check out Logic's YouTube site. But Logic, I don't know if you want to be found, but if you do, let everyone know they can find you.
You can find me on Twitter at GameLogic. You can pay attention to that over the next few days. I will probably be posting some stuff about putting the new Google Pixel Fold through its paces, and
just throw it in the trash can already. Come on.
And we'll see what comes out of the Samsung Unpacked event next week. I'll be looking to upgrade my Z Fold 3 as well, so I may be going to the Z Fold 5, and that'll let me run some comparisons between the Pixel Fold, the Z Fold 5, and I'm already going to be doing comparisons between the Pixel Fold and the Galaxy S23 Ultra, just to kind of put some information out there about what my own personal experiences are. So you can
awesome. Yeah.
Follow that if you want.
Yeah, actually, all jokes aside, I'm looking forward to your thoughts on the new Pixel Fold phone, whatever it's called.
Yeah,
but, yeah.
Me too, because you know I looked at that and I'm like, God damn it, because I was planning on going back to iPhone because I'm tired of the Samsung, but that Pixel Fold looks nice.
Yeah, it should be interesting, and you know, I used the original Surface Duo for a year or two, which is, you know, a form factor that's much closer to the Pixel Fold than the Z Fold, than the Samsung Z Fold is. So, you know, it'd be interesting to kind of lean on those experiences as well, and put some stuff out about that.
Awesome. That's yeah, like I said, definitely looking forward to that. So, but everyone, again, thank you so much for hanging out with us this evening. Please hit the like button, and if you're new to the show, subscribe, hit the bell notification so that you're alerted when we go live. So I think we're gonna try to do a BRAP. I don't know, Logic. Maybe this weekend if you're available. I don't know if that's if you have time, but
yeah, we'll see how it goes. It's a little jam packed right now.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah, but no. As always, thank you everyone, and we'll catch you next time. Thank you.